out there in YouTube land? Dan here from Geekcast Radio, doing another comic book haul video. Yeah, this is a little later than normal. I'm having trouble doing these on Wednesdays or different days. It's been craziness, but luckily I did wait because my local comic book store had an amazing sale. They had some 75% off, some classic issues. In addition, $50 comics for only 50 cents. So I actually picked up a bunch of stuff. I have some new books to talk about, but before I get into the new books, I actually wanted to talk about some of the older books, which are the oldness of these books does vary. One of the books I picked up was The Mighty Thor number 394, and they had a bunch of Mighty Thor issues, and I was combing through a bunch of them. I debated they had the first appearance or the second appearance of Beta Ray Bill for a decent price, but I ended up getting, this was $5 regular, but it was 75% off, so it was a deal I couldn't pass up. Also, just really love that cover, and Mighty Thor is one of those books I'm trying to pick up more and more. I have much of the newer stuff, but classic stuff, anything really under 500, I'm really low on. So picked this up and I thought it was a great deal. Also, this was more curiosity than anything, and also got a solid deal on it as well, which is Spawn Batman. Sorry for the glare. And I've heard a lot about this book. I've never read it. It was originally $10, and I was like, that's a lot, but again, 75% off. Got a pretty solid deal on it. It was written by Frank Miller with art by Todd McFarlane. Very much, this is kind of 90s comic nostalgia all in one book in a way. So I picked this up in large part because I thought, okay, I can actually maybe do a comic book review on it, doing one of my long box reviews, because I haven't talked a lot about DC books because I don't own a lot of DC books, but I thought this would be a good opportunity, get in some Spawn, get in some Batman, all in one issue. Speaking of Batman, I did pick up some Batman, and Batman, the current run of Batman, it's not a book I'm picking up. I haven't been, because my local comic book store, I wait long enough, they end up in the dollar bins because they tend to order so many of them. So I picked up some as well with Batman 36 and two of the Rules of Engagement, which were 35 and 34. And the reason I picked these two up in large part was because of the art of Joelle Jones, who I'm a huge fan of, who now is doing the Catwoman series, and I'm picking up a lot of the Batman series that she did, issues here and there, and I didn't love this specific storyline. There's pieces of it I did enjoy, but I love Joelle Jones' art, so that was a big reason I picked it up. And with that, I also picked up Lady Killer. This was issue 5 of Lady Killer, I think for the first volume 1. I'm not sure, but I love this series. I own it digitally, but I don't own any of the physical copies. So this was in the dollar bin, so I get this for 50 cents, and it's enough to just pick it up. And I think Joelle Jones is actually going to be at a local con, so maybe get it signed. But that was just one of these. Sometimes if I see a series I like and it's in the dollar bin, I might pick it up if I don't own any of the physical copies, and hopefully maybe end up getting the entire series if you go back and look enough over and over again, and end up getting an entire run for $1.50 or $2 or $3 rather than buying it in trade for 10 or more, or the issues as they come up. I also picked up Avengers. This was 684. I wasn't collecting. I have Avengers Now. I'm collecting Avengers Now, but I wasn't when this weekly storyline was going on. I actually had very little faith in No Surrender, but I ended up actually quite enjoying it a great deal. The reason I picked this one up, though, in large part, was because this is really where the Immortal Hulk, the current run, really kind of established itself. It's not as horrific as what it's going on right now, but it gave us the first signs of it. This was Hulk returned in the issue prior to this at the end, and this was him kind of just kicking butt and taking names. So it's a lot of fun. And 2 still had a valid digital code on it as well. So I will probably just stick this in with my current Hulk books. And I would highly advise, if you skipped No Surrender, picking it up. It's not the best Avengers story in a while, but it reminded me of those classic runs of Avengers in the 80s and 90s. It was like an extended annual story, that was utterly ridiculous, kind of cliche, but executed well. So I ended up enjoying it in that realm. Also, I picked this up, Master of Kung Fu. when Legacy started, they had a bunch of these one-shot issues. They did this. They did a Darkhawk one, a Power Pack, and I didn't read this at the time, but I thought I'd pick it up and check it out. This was actually written by CM Punk, the former WWE star, now UFC fighter. Maybe still. I know he lost his last fight, so I don't know if he's still fighting. But I do like Master of Kung Fu, the series, and wanted to see how it stacked up. I'm guessing not very well, considering it kind of came and went and didn't get any type of continuation or any other series. Unlike, we have Darkhawk is now Infinity War. Master of Kung Fu just kind of came and went, even though it was written by a wrestler. I also picked up a bunch of the Doctor Strange Damnation storyline, both from the what Donny Cates was writing, the combination of Donny Cates and Nick Spencer. I thought that was a great story. I thought it was ridiculous, enjoyable. It was weird how it was laid out in a way, how Damnation and kind of happened concurrently. That kind of made it confusing. So I think honestly a big reason I picked this up because if they put it in trade wrong, like they put it in trade like the Doctor Seuss, yes, Doctor Seuss, Doctor Strange stories in by itself or with the Damnation combined, I'm not sure. They could really mess it up and make it really confusing to follow. So I was trying to pick up some of the back issues. These again were all from the 50-cent bin. And also some of the earlier runs too, the Loki Sorcerer Supreme. I picked this up too because I love that cover. The Giving Tree was one of my favorite kids' books growing up, so love the homage to that. And then one of the other runs, I think the Loki Sorcerer Supreme was probably better than the Damnation storyline, but it only had a couple issues of that. So I don't have Donny Cates' complete run on Doctor Strange, but I got a good chunk of it. So again, one of those things, we'll go back and see if I can fill it in, or if I'm going to a con, maybe I'll have to spend a little bit more than I did there. But again, was also really great is that the digital codes are still valid, so I can still pick them up. Another series I picked up, which was a few issues of it, issues 3, 4, and 5 of Braceland. And if you've not, this is the second volume of it, and I really love the first volume. I actually missed most of the second volume. Braceland it's written by Brian Wood, and those that don't know, Brian Wood's written things like DMZ. He's writing another series I'll get to. Currently writing the RoboCop series. He's written a lot of great stuff. Braceland I thought was fantastic. The first run of it was one of my favorite comics of that year. It's about this white supremacist family in this town that they reside in, and it's kind of reminds me a little bit of Sons of Anarchy. It has a similar type of vibe where bad people doing bad things, and supposedly it's being made into a TV show potentially. Brian, he tends to write a lot of books, and they get optioned often before they're even out. Him and like Mark Millar tend to go back and forth their ability to make their things get optioned. But I would highly advise picking that up or reading that series, at least the first volume. Very true life drama, human drama. It's tough to read and look at, as it's dealing with some pretty harsh and awful people. So that might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's good drama and it's executed pretty well. Speaking of good drama, another series. This is from Berger Books, Jazz Maynard. I think that's how you say it. This is like Berger Books to me. They're the closest things comics to novels. The way that they're written, their stories that they tell. It's about this jazz player and kind of not really crime fighter, but he helps solve mysteries. It's a very deep story with a lot going on. I've read the second volume when it returned. I've not read much of the first volume, but I enjoyed it a lot. It's very slow moving, so it may not be everyone's cup of tea, and it feels a lot like a European comic in its execution, its art style. So, but I like it. I thought it was quite good. Another one I got from the 50-cent bin was this. I have known nothing about this. It's Mercy, written by J.M. DeMatteis and art by Paul Johnson. It's a Vertigo book from 1993. Again, it was in the 50-cent bin. It's quite thick, and it's got a great paper stock. It's like almost feels like a pseudo trade. Like I've picked up trades that were smaller than this with worse paper, but it looks fantastic. It has looks a lot like has a Sandman quality vibe to it. So, I thought for 50 cents, it seems like it's self-contained. I don't know for sure, but which would really bug me if it's like really great and then I won't ever find any other issues because there's no numbers associated with it. So I assume it's like a one shot, but again, the beauty of the dollar bin or the 50-cent bin, you can just pick it up and check it out and hopefully it's good. I talked about Brian Wood and another series that he did, which was Rebels, and this was the second volume of Rebels, a couple issues of that. Rebels talks about the Revolutionary War. This also had some of the War of 1812 in it as well, and it's partially a continuation story, partially each issue is a short story, so some of them do tie together, some of them don't. But I love the Revolutionary War era, and it's not very often depicted in fiction. I think what we have that movie with Mel Gibson, and that's about it. Rebels was a great series. If you like U.S. history, love that time period. It's fictionalized, so it doesn't technically deal with real people. Some real people do show up, but they're more titular characters. It's not like George Washington. But if you like that TV show on AMC, I think it's called Turn. It's it talks a lot about that. So it goes. He does a lot of research, a lot of pieces about that war that maybe not are covered in your typical history class. So if you're a history buff, definitely check that out. And I did buy actually some newer comics too. So not everything was from 50 years ago. Picked up Relay #1 from Aftershock Comics. This is written by Zach Thompson and story by, I guess, Donny Cates as well. And art by Andy Clark. This is actually the variant cover done by Christian Ward, which I thought was actually much better than the original cover. I love his art, though. I kind of wish he did the art for the book. Not that the art was bad. I actually haven't read this yet, so I don't know. But I like Zach Thompson a lot. A lot of his Aftershock books and a lot of his books that he did for Black Mass. And actually his Cable run is actually, it turned me around. I didn't like it at first, but the last few issues have been fantastic. So I thought I'd pick this up. Sci-fi adventure. I read the first issue 0, which was a free comic book day issue, and enjoyed that. It has a like Philip K. Dick vibe, Blade Runner vibe. Another #1 that I picked up was Farmhand, #1, written and drawn by Rob Guillory, who did Dear Art on Chew. And I heard him talk about this. I think it was on an interview with, I think, iFanboy, and I just found like the story behind it fascinating. Deals with a pseudo real life, but it's about a farm in which he can grow human body parts, but also like relationship with his father. It takes place in New Orleans, so I was highly curious about that. I did enjoy Chew. It's a great series, very strange and odd, and feels like that very much will fit into that frame. Also from Alterna Comics is the Metaphase, #1. I picked this up out of curiosity. It's the cool thing about Alterna is that they're only $1.50. They're written on or drawn on newsprint of some sort. I know this is about a kid who I think has Down syndrome, and his father's a superhero, so he visions himself as a superhero. So I wanted to check it out and see how it dealt with that type of issue. Alternate, I think, has a lot of good books. The great thing about them, with it only being $1.50, you can try it out. If you don't love it, then you only had $1.50. Like the Trespasser series, I really enjoyed, so thought I would give that one a shot as well. A book I've been really enjoying a lot is Exiles, and now Exiles #5 is out. This is written by Saladin Maman and art by Javier Rodriguez, and his art. Last issue, I'm assuming they'll be dealing with it. With this issue, we're dealing with Blackbeard, the Thing as Blackbeard the pirate, and there was a great image of Juggernaut as this basically like a submarine type of war machine boat complex, which was crazy. The art has been really fantastic throughout the series. It may not be everyone's type of style, but I thought it's been really effective and imaginative. It's actually also too been really wordy. It's very much in the vein of classic comics. But I've enjoyed it. I love the Exile series from the early 2000s. I stuck with it all the way to New Exiles when Chris Claremont came in and kind of ruined it. I don't think it's as good as the original Exile series, especially because when that series first started, like, you didn't know much about what was going on. A lot of the mechanics of that world were kind of just in the background until you found out like the reasoning behind everything. But with this, it's dealing with like Nick Fury and whatever craziness he's called now, the Unseen or something like that, which is a little bit weird, but it still has a lot of great lot of what was made that series really great was the randomness of the worlds they would encounter, the vastness of the characters, the imagination that would be poured into each issue. Like, you're limitless in what you can do with a series like that, because it's about this team that travels from dimension to dimension, and each dimension is, has its own rules. There's nothing in continuity it needs to follow, and do whatever it wants to do. So it makes it a lot of fun, because you never know what will pop up. Sometimes they'll go into classic storylines like Days of Future Past or Future Imperfect, or just new ideas, and that's really been what this has been going for. So, and I hope that there has been some flashes to some of the characters that took place in that classic series. I hope they show up again. Don't know if they will, but we'll see. I'm really excited about this one, and that's the Amazing Spider-Man #1, written by Nick Spencer, art by Ryan Ottley. I like the new comic book day issue, and I'm excited to see Ryan Ottley do Spider-Man. That's awesome. Coming off of Invincible, great to see him back, right? Leaving Invincible and going right to Spider-Man. So I think his style fits perfectly, considering Invincible was, an imagination, like a alteration of much of the typical Spider-Man universe, or at least the archetype. So seeing him in a character like this, I'm really excited. So my only bad part is they'll probably do like 3 issues, and then we get a new artist then. Speaking of a lot of number ones this week, another #1, Superman #1, and Man of Steel, was interesting. There were some good parts, some bad parts. I'm hoping now that we're in Superman #1 and Action Comics 1001 that it will get a little bit better and not be as kind of unnecessarily drawn out. We'll see. Also love that cover. I don't know why Superman is destroying the phone booth. Maybe he just doesn't like them anymore, or because no one uses them. I'm not sure, but who knows. Last but not least, I have Isla #4, or Isla. This has been a really great series. Fantastic art, beautiful art. The story's been a little light so far, but last issue has probably had the most story in it, and I'm assuming, based upon what I saw of this, there'll be even more in this. It reminds me a lot of, the easiest comparison to make is something like Princess Mononoke from Studio Ghibli, that type of style. Kind of drops you into a world, lets you figure things out, but it's been a lot of fun. One of the best looking books that I've on the shelves right now. When I look at it sometimes, I'm like, I don't know how this is in a comic. I feel like I'm looking at stills of an animated film. But like I said, story-wise, it's been good, not to the quality of the art, but it's just beautiful to look at. It's great visual storytelling. If the narrative can match it, it will be one of the best books Image is putting out. But yeah, a lot of books, and I got one more thing that I picked up, and it's not a book, but short box. And I've been meaning to get one of these for some time. A lot of my long boxes are long past their due date. They're not looking in great shape, and I find that short boxes are a little easier to move around and put things in. So hopefully, maybe put it on the desk. And what I love about this, I know a lot of people hate this Spider-Man costume. I really like it. I don't know if it's nostalgia or what it is, but I tend to really enjoy it, and hopefully put this on the desk as well. So I love about these. I'm surprised it took them so long to do things like this, but it's a lot less of an eyesore than a gigantic white box in the corner. So I thought I'd pick it up, and it's already full of comics. So as you know, as any comic book fan, you spend a lot of time and effort just getting things to keep them in places, bags and boards, boxes, the prices of physical media, I guess. But all right, well, enough for me for this week. If you want to check out more from me, check out my podcast, Comic Concierge. I'll be doing some videos of some of the books I picked up, some reviews, especially Spider-Man and Superman, giving you my thoughts on those. Or go to Geekcast Radio. You can see tons of stuff there, from Ultra Geek to Cinema Geeks to Tooncast Beyond. Anything that's pretty much in the geekdom, we have a podcast on it. So, alrighty. Remember that comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.